What is up? Welcome back to another Dragon Ball Super review. And this one we're going to go ahead and talk about the final episode of Super. Hope you all enjoyed this episode in particular, and hope you guys enjoyed this review as well. Subscribe if you're new. Episode 131, the last episode, I repeat, of Super. But don't worry, there will be a movie at the end of the year. Super probably in terms of the name maybe won't return, but a continuation from here. I don't know what they would call it. Maybe it would be called Super either way, but a continuation could come. But we do know first and foremost that the movie will continue where the show left off. So basically, this episode was very, I thought it was pretty good. Like, I don't know, maybe it's just like I'm looking at it from the perspective of the fact that it's over, right? And it's like, when something comes to an end, you kind of can appreciate it for what it was, and, you find joy. A lot of times when I watch animes through episode to episode, or like on a weekly basis to be more specific, although some animes still get me, like, Yu Yu Hakusho or Hunter x Hunter and stuff like that, at the end, your boy sometimes is in tears and stuff, but you know what I'm saying? That didn't happen here, but I was just very happy and excited. I also thought it was kind of weird the way that they shook it out. So long story short, the episode was Goku, Frieza, and Android 17 versus Jiren at the end. Jiren was depowered. It got to a point where Android 17 and Frieza seemed like they had the upper hand and like they were actually going to be able to defeat Jiren. And at the end, Toppo winds up pep talking Jiren into some sort of last resort power up that Jiren had. I would call that a ASS pull, but I wouldn't do that because they've done it like 50 times in this tournament. So yeah, he gets powered up. I wouldn't say he's as strong as he would have been, of course, because he winds up from there. Yeah, he's definitely not. He winds up from there fighting Android 17, Goku, and Frieza in his final form, Goku in his base form, for the most part of that. And he still gets kind of bodied enough to where he loses. So ultimately, Jiren does get eliminated alongside Goku and Vegeta. And Goku and Vegeta, let me rewind just a little bit. Goku and Frieza. Goku and Frieza fought together. That was like groundbreaking to me. Like, not that they fought together, because of course they have fought together throughout this tournament, but they fought together in tandem, in sync. They were coordinating attacks. They were working well. Like, they had chemistry, yo. And it was awesome. And there was a moment there where like Frieza's like, oh, launch me towards him, and it's like he flies at him with the energy around him. I think he has an attack like that in Fighters, for example, and he also, I think, did it back in the Frieza arc where he gets clad in the energy and then flies at the opponent and hits them with all of that. And he ultimately did that as well. And then there's this scene after that where he and Goku, right before that, where he and Goku, Frieza and Goku, Goku punches him and then Frieza kicks him like in the neck area at the same time. So it's like these guys were fighting together, and that was just like, this is kind of where like it all started, really. As far as Dragon Ball Z is concerned, they did have, Goku and Vegeta, yada yada, but the first real big opponent was Frieza, because everything prior in Dragon Ball Z was basically leading up to Frieza. So, we see Frieza and Goku, and the other way that I thought that was pretty cool is we know Goku's basically depleted. I'm surprised he didn't just fly back into blue again. I mean, that happened so many times, but I guess that final time was the straw that broke the camel's back. It's like, yeah, Goku can't do it again. He's already paid this massive toll by using Ultra Instinct so many times, in fact, but also using the mastered iteration of Ultra Instinct, which we will talk about a little bit later in this review. But I'm surprised he didn't just flood back into blue, because that was the trope for the whole tournament. Oh, he's out energy. Oh, wait, he has it back like just 2 minutes later. Not even 2 minutes. But nonetheless, I thought it was pretty cool that Goku was like kind of pulsating into Super Saiyan, in and out of Super Saiyan. Because that signified that he was weak. He couldn't really do it. And also, there was a point right before that where he could like barely stand and things of that nature. So we know where Goku is physically, right? He doesn't have the energy to really go into that, but he pushed his limits and was trying to, go Super Saiyan. So pretty much that's where he wound up being at the time that he did get eliminated alongside Frieza and Jiren, of course. And it was interesting, to say the least, that Toppo did have to try to pep talk Jiren. Jiren had basically kneeled to Frieza. He was done. He was about to fold it up. Frieza hit him with that Owarida. You know what I'm saying? So he was done. So aside from that, Goku does walk over to Jiren and say, hey, I want to see you again. Typical Goku stuff. Goku always says that type of stuff. I mean, he said it to Big Bad Kid Buu. Like, I hope you get reborn. So, yeah. Which, speaking of which, they didn't actually jump all the way to the end of Z, because I just can only surmise that they're going to try to cram more stuff in between where Dragon Ball Super is now in relation to that end of Z. They only have like a couple more years or so to play with anyway. They used up all the time in that gap. Aside from I would say 3 years, I think, because Pan is about 4 at the end of Z. So they have a couple of years left, 2-3 years left to play with. So, I mean, they have some time. But we didn't jump to that, so there was no more Oob mentions or anything like that in the end of the episode because, of course, the movie universe that they're going to be continuing from here will take place in that time period. Now, aside from that, another thing that did happen was Android 17 wound up being the last person in the arena. If you had asked me at the start of the tournament if Android 17 would be the one to win the tournament, I would have told you no. I don't think so whatsoever. And that also kind of made me a little salty because I really wanted Gohan to win. And I kind of felt like aside from 17's, being able to use energy limitlessly, which helped a lot in the fight with Toppo and stuff like that, kind of felt like they could have found a way to make Gohan be there. Maybe in place of Frieza, I guess, because Frieza really, really, really didn't need to be there. Especially because he winds up getting exactly what he wants anyway. It kind of seemed like Goku wasn't going to honor that. I believe Goku might have even said he wasn't going to honor that wish to Frieza. But in the end, Whis... it shouldn't surprise me, but it does surprise me that this guy can just resurrect people on the spot. But he does ultimately resurrect Frieza back to life. But Android 17, yeah, I don't really mind him being the last one, but I just didn't expect it, right? And I really wanted Gohan, as a Gohan fan, to be there because I felt like they set that character up. I felt like they set that character up to do something and be very, very impactful in this arc, which ultimately kind of fell short of what I thought that they set up for him. That's just me. Feel free to disagree in the comments. Get a discussion going as well. But I do not mind. I do like Android 17. I felt like, he... from the beginning of all this was one of the more unrealistic characters in my mind, aside from Krillin and Tien and maybe Piccolo to a lesser extent being exponentially stronger than you would expect. From some of the stupid things that they did with Goku being in blue, albeit not maxed out blue, but still being in blue nonetheless. There has to be some sort of floor to that level of power in fighting Krillin right before the tournament and stuff like that. He got one of those really, really big buffs kind of out of nowhere that enabled him to be worthy of being on that final stage. I kind of feel like I wouldn't be surprised as well if they kind of just were going through the motions when it comes to this arc, and at the last second, we'll let Android 17 be the guy. And the thing about it is, ultimately, they pull out one of those another pulls again from the butt pulls, without fear of getting demonetized. When it comes to Android 17, because we know that he wanted to be able to travel the world with his family. That was probably, I would say, the dumbest wish among all of them from everything I can recall, because it's bro, that's not something you need the Super Dragon Balls for. That's not something you need the regular Dragon Balls for, I understand it. I can commend it, but it's you don't need that. You don't need to wish for a yacht or whatever, a boat, whatever, to be able to do that. Maybe you're basically wishing for money. But nonetheless, Zeno basically knew going in that they would make a selfless wish and resurrect the universes, which is why, because the entire time that this was going on, my whole mindset was, I don't think they'll wish back the universes, but I don't want to think that, because it's why would they set up all these characters, right? Because these are all characters that can now from here be in all of their other media, their games. I mean, I don't expect to see Ribrianne unless somebody really wants to be, characters like Ribrianne or Bergamo. I guess maybe in Dokkan, because Dokkan doesn't really care about stuff like that, but console games or Legends, for example, which is kind of wanting to be, but isn't a console game. I don't expect those characters to be in that, but nonetheless, why would you just kill off Kaba and Hit and Jiren and Toppo and all these other characters that emerged as being some of the most popular characters among all these other universes? But basically, I didn't expect the Zenos to kind of let somebody undermine their authority, but I also didn't consider that they might have already went into it expecting that and knowing that and wanting somebody to to ask for a wish like that, to prove that mortals can change. There's a deeper meaning into that. I still feel like it's kind of it kind of just came out of nowhere, whatever, left field, and I don't know how I feel about it, but I can appreciate the deeper meaning in that it shows that mortals can change, and that actually ties into the initial reason for the Tournament of Power. Right, lower mortal levels, that's pretty cool, in a meta concept. So Android 17 does ask for all the universes to be resurrected, which ultimately leads us back to, Vegeta's wish being granted as well, and just everything else that we needed. I mean, it kind of makes it to where, in a way, the Tournament of Power was pointless, but in another way, in the larger way, it wasn't, because again, it served to show Zeno that this is something that can happen. The whole mantra of Dragon Ball is Goku changing people, right? And Android 17 even attributed his wish, his selfless wish, to all of them, and I can't help but feel like Goku was a really, really big part of that as well. Ultimately, at the end of the episode, they all return. Frieza does say he's going to continue his evil ways, and Goku, of course, says, "I'll just stop you again." I don't know what you think you're going to do, Frieza, at this point, unless you can train and achieve a level beyond Ultra Instinct, which ultimately Goku says he can't access anymore, which that's a hunk of BS. He can't use it naturally, fine, but he's going to get pushed past his limits in a movie. That form is too popular. They're going to bring it back, but it's cool that he can't just actually go into it at will. He never did that in the tournament, and I wouldn't expect him to. I mean, he literally just got that form in the course of a day. You know what I'm saying? So I wouldn't expect him to. It took him a while to train and master Super Saiyan, for example, when he came back from Yard Ride. I would expect the same for Mastered Instinct, or Ultra Instinct, as we call it, of course. But we did see some cool cameos at the end. We saw Tights. I tweeted that out, and some people were like, what? Because, of course, it went by pretty quick. There was also a scene in there where Vegeta was proud of Bulla, or Bra, whichever you prefer. Both are correct. And then he looks over at Pan, and Pan's flying, and he gets jealous. Saw little stuff like that. Android 17 ultimately did go on his cruise anyway with his family. And it was just such an awesome ending to the episode. And then we end on the Goku and Vegeta taking their initial poses back from the Saiyan saga, which they've done a few times, I believe, in this series, paying homage to that. So ultimately, really enjoyed the episode. In hindsight, I think Super did have its problems, but it was awesome watching it on a weekly basis. I thought that the episodes could have been produced better on a weekly basis, but watching it, again, in Blu-ray quality and stuff like that would have been, or to reiterate, will be even better. Storytelling could have been better. I don't think Super by any means is a perfect anime, but you know what? It was fun, and it was really fun while it lasted. So let me know your thoughts in the comments down below. Hope you all enjoyed this episode of Dragon Ball Super, because it's the last one, at least for a long time. So anyways, take it easy, guys, and peace out.